Hello, welcome back to our course on web design. And in today's class, we'll be talking about programming languages. We've been talking about web development and web design and who web developer, sorry, and who a web designer or a web developer is. All right. So in this class, we'll be talking about programming languages. So we'll be making mention of programming language. So let's understand what a programming language is. So a programming language is a set of instructions that we feed into the computer to give us some kind of output. All right. So if you write an instruction or if you send some piece of instruction to the computer and it responds with an output, we would say that you've used a programming language to actually instruct the computer. All right, so that set of instructions you've written is what we call a programming language. All right, so don't confuse it with when you type a text in your system and you're seeing anything. No, you're talking about sending instruction that tells the computer what to do. All right, in general, you see developers using high level languages to write their instructions. All right, so and these high level languages are English like instruct in nature, right? So they look like English. That means they are readable. If you understand English, you can read the you can read what is written. All right. Okay, so they are easier to understand by to humans, right? Unlike the machine codes that are in zeros and ones, which are not easily readable. All right, they are actually difficult when you want to use them to build complex websites. Even when you try to even use them to build very simple uh, programs, you find it very hard to do. Not talk of when you now have a complex program to use. All right, so that is why with time, moving from the lower level languages, we were able to now get to the point where we now have the high level languages, which are easier to write. All right. Now, these high level languages are classified into two: the ones that are compiled and the ones that are interpreted. All right. Now, a compiled language is actually one that uh, translates, all right, the code that you've written from the human readable form to the computer understandable form. So that's from your source code to your bytecode. All right, it reads it and then stores it in a separate file. All right, such that when you now want to run it on your computer only needs to read the instructions and execute at the same time. Whereas interpreted languages are languages that are not compiled. So when you try to run them on your interpreter gets to tell the system what to do as the system is moving or transversing through the lines of code you've written. So basically, comparing it to a real life scenario, a compiled language is can be likened to someone who understands Spanish and English. So saying that he wants to address people in English, he takes whatever he has written in Spanish and translates it to English so that when he now comes out to read it to his audience, they are able to understand what he's saying. Whereas when you go to interpreted language, you could liken it to somebody who understands Spanish and wants to speak to people who understands English, but he needs an interpreter. So as he's saying each sentence, the person is interpreting each sentence as he's saying it. So you see that the speed of communication will be slower than compared to the one that have already written out the translated version of the Spanish text. All right. So that's why compiled languages are actually faster than interpreted languages, because taken back to our analogy, you see that the interpreter will need to first listen, get what the person is saying, then try to understand it, then now interpret in the language the audience can understand. So example of a compiled language is C++ and Java. And don't be deceived, Java is a hybrid language also, right? Because when you, after writing Java code, you compile it, okay? Now, when you're done compiling it, for it to run, the JVM, that's the Java Virtual Machine, now needs to interpret it. All right, so it interprets it for it before it now gets to run. All right, so that's why we say Java is hybrid. All right, so but you can still categorize it in the group of compiled languages. So now we also have the interpreted languages. Examples are the PHP and PL. We have other ones like the Python, etc. Okay, so now moving down to low-level languages, these ones are executed on the computer hardware, right? So they are not interpreted nor are they translated. So we have example like the assembly language and the machine language. All right. So the assembly language, their machine language are very closer to what the computer can understand. Especially we know that the machine language is zeros and ones and the computer understands zeros and ones. So the assembly language is lower, very low, or very closely to the machine language, so that with the help of the assembler, whatever you written in your assembly language will be taken down to the machine language format that the computer hardware can understand. Right, so this is where we uh, stop on in today's class, and in our next class we'll now talk about the different types of or categories of programming languages that you might come across. Right, so thank you and have a nice day.